Extend record run ahead of the FOMC decision, end at record highs. Most sectoral indices end in the green. M&M's Q1 profit falls on higher raw material costs, but Maruti Suzuki's profit zooms to 47% and beats estimates. Adani Energy's $1 billion QIP, subscribed by 5 times, receives bids worth $350 million from domestic mutual funds. Bank of Japan hikes benchmark interest rate to around 0.25% for the second time since 2007. Decision comes ahead of the US Federal Reserve's policy announcement. SEBI cracks the whip on finfluencers, flagged nearly 9,000 misleading and unlawful social media posts related to securities market for legal action. Nitin Gadkari writes a letter to the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman urging her to withdraw GST on life and medical insurance premiums. Over 150 people are dead and more than 200 injured so far in the aftermath of the Wayanad landslide. The IMD forecasts heavy rain in the state for the next 48 hours, issues a red alert. More medal hopefuls today. Shutlers Lakshya Sen and PV Sindhu advance to the round of 16 in the men's and women's singles draw at the Paris Olympics, and shooter Swapnil Singh secures a spot in the 50-meter air rifle 3 positions final. Good evening and welcome. You are watching Profit 360 on NDTV Profit, and I'm Nupur Talwar Suri. Let's begin with a look at what's happening on the indices. Now, the benchmark indices extended their gains for a 4th consecutive session today. Neeraj Shah is joining us for a quick check on how the markets have performed. Hi, Neeraj. Neeraj, the indices closing at highest levels.
Well, record close for the market, and in part courtesy to what some of the results have been like today and some traction from the IT stocks, because banking was very, very flat in the session today. Look at this. Banking didn't perform, but autos, IT, there were select buckets which did okay. This is banks, of course, but IT, about 1/3% or 0.4% auto, and IT about 0.18%. In fact, was up about 0.6% at a point of time as well. Now, what stood out was the kind of performance that the mid-caps did. Small caps were flat, but mid-caps had a very good run, about 111 points. But the heat map will come up on your screen, and you'll probably see Maruti right out there at the top half. In fact, the best performing stock after the results that came out. Blowout performance on the margins, big beat out there, as a result of which bottom line way higher than what the estimates were. So Maruti clocking in top of the pile gains. The metal names also did well. So the likes of JSW Steel, there was strength in Hindalco. Dam Capital initiated a report with a 35% upside. There was Tata Steel, which also did okay for itself. Asian Paints, the life insurance names, because of the open letter to the finance minister from Nitin Gadkari about the GST on insurance products. So all of that led to some very broad-based traction in the session today. You can make this out from the fact that you don't see a Reliance or a HDFC Bank in the top 20 names. In fact, HDFC Bank had a very, very flat outing in the session today. What didn't do well? Precious little, Britannia, Dr. Reddy's, Apollo, but nothing really which mattered. At the broader end of the spectrum, BSE 500, let's get the winners and the losers on your screen. And a multitude of stocks did okay. So Torrent Power, symptomatic of what happened to good results, 16% higher. There was strength in NoSil and a few other chemical names, and certainly pharma. This morning we spoke about how pharmaceuticals should not be ignored despite yesterday's correction, because the commentary is very good. Look at the gains that are coming in. Granules on positive commentary. Ajanta Pharma did really well. Jubilant Pharma Nova up about 5%. So pharmaceuticals is really packing a punch in the session. Network 18Z were amongst the media names which did well. What didn't do well? India Mart, result reaction. Fine Organics, after the up move yesterday, a bit of a correction. Aegis Logistics, top line soft, result reaction. Birla soft, bottom line downtake, result reaction. Deepak Fertilizer, top line wobble and a result reaction out there. So that's the market today. A lot of result reaction led moves, both on the upside and the downside, both on the large cap and the mid cap end of the market.
Right, Neeraj, thank you very much for that. Now, as Just pointing out, let's take a look at the big auto numbers that came in today. Increased raw material costs dented the bottom line of auto giant Mahindra & Mahindra. The net profit was down 5% at 2,600 crore rupees. Revenue, though, rose 11% to over 27,000 crore rupees. The EBITDA rose by close to 16%, and Tushar is joining us with more on this. Tushar, take us through the numbers and what are they indicative of?
Mahindra & Mahindra grew in the fiscal first quarter on the back of volumes that surged about 25%. Net profit, however, declined about 5 to 6%, but that's excluding the gains that the company has acquired last year from the sale of the Mahindra CIE business, as well as the acquisition of the KG Mobility business, which was previously SsangYong. Very quickly, the numbers. Revenue rose about 11% to 27,130 crores. EBITDA was up 15.9% to about 4,120 crores. EBITDA margin was at 15.2% as compared to 14.6% last year, while net profit was down about 5.3% to about 2,600 crore rupees. In terms of the fundamentals, the volumes were about at a quarterly high, 25% up. Tractor volumes were also high. The management believes that the steady state of sales will continue in the months ahead, despite an inventory level of about in excess of about 4 to 5 days. The waiting period is still high for the entire portfolio at about 8 to 10 months. The company is still seeing robust demand across its model range. The company is also looking at some amount of variant rationalization, reducing the number of variants so that it reduces the pressure on the supply chain, even as it readies for the launch of the Thar 5-door on 15th August.
All right, thank you for that. Now, speaking at the press conference, M&M CEO Rajesh Jejurikar says that a good monsoon helped growth in the farm segment. He also said that the demand for XUV 700 remains intact.
July has been pretty good in most parts of the country, so most critical markets have been impacted positively, especially the west and south. The farm margins, and I'm focusing right now on the core tractor margins, just for clarity, core tractor margins are the margins we make out of our domestic tractor business plus exports from India. Doesn't include farm machines, doesn't include farm machinery, powerall, and global subs. So that's gone up to a very healthy level of 19.7%, which is a 1% improvement in margin. You see the same on the farm standalone side. There was escalation and a shortage in chips availability, which had led to increased material costs, and 700 had a lot of chips. We've increased the capacity over since launch. So we started at 3,500. We hit 6,000 capacity. Now we're at 10,000. So there is a need and a desire to start leveraging our capacities. We expect this anniversary offer to have minimal impact on financials because we expect higher volumes. We expect the costs have already come down, and we will get operating leverage out of the higher volumes.
In fact, addressing shareholders, M&M Chairman Anand Mahindra spoke about how the group will take on the challenge of creating jobs in the country. Listen in.
We must also be aware of the important role the private sector plays in job creation. As emphasized in the Honorable Finance Minister's recent budget speech, increasing employment and skilling are key national priorities. While India stands to benefit from the reorientation of global supply chains in the post-pandemic world, our growth and prosperity must be driven by job creation. And I emphasize, this is a collective responsibility. And the Indian private sector has always partnered with the government in nation building.
And now Maruti's numbers, of course, beat street estimates, with net profit more than doubling. Revenue was up close to 10%. Margins have also improved, while EBITDA zoomed up by over 50%. Now, the Maruti management is expected to address shareholders over a con call in some time today. Well, more first quarter earnings. Adani Power's net profit without other income doubled over the same period last year. Now, revenue increased by over 35%, EBITDA surged by over 76%, and margins too have improved. In fact, staying with the Adani Group, Adani Energy has executed the largest fundraise in the country's energy space. The QIP was subscribed 5 times. Mihika joins us with more on this. Mihika, give us an overall sense of how this did.
Yes, that's right. Adani Energy Solutions is set to raise a primary fundraise of $1 billion via the QIP route. Now, the QIP is currently underway. It's subscribed 5 times with an approximate demand of 43,000 crores. Now, this QIP deal marks the largest one, first fundraise transaction seen in the Indian energy space as the first primary equity fundraise post-January 2023 when a follow-on public offer of the company was withdrawn. When you talk about where the QIP is likely to close at, where it's likely to close at rupees 1,135 per share, which is 16% higher than the issue price of 976 rupees per share. When we talk about who's participating, existing long-only investors like GQG, QIA, ADIA, and few other US investors have participated. And from the mutual fund side of things, our domestic demand stands at $350 million. When you talk about domestic institutions, including SBI Mutual Fund, SBI General, Bandhan Mutual Fund, HDFC Mutual Fund, 361 and Axis Mutual Fund have also participated, with SBI Mutual Fund submitting bids of 800 crores. And it is key to know that the mutual fund is, with the mutual funds actively investing, it also helps expand the investor base for Adani Energy Solutions, which is the company where 74.94% of shareholding is held by promoter and promoter groups, while 25.06% is held by the public.
Now, in a historic and unexpected move, the Bank of Japan has raised policy rates to 0.25%. It has also unveiled a detailed plan to slow down bond buying. Pallavi Nahata is joining us with more details on this. Pallavi, take us through what this could now mean going forward.
Right. So like you've mentioned, it's a historic move. The Bank of Japan has raised interest rates to 0.25% from 0 to 0.1%. That's by a 7-2 vote. And it projects inflation to stay close to its 2% target. This move takes its short-term policy rates to levels that are unseen since 2008. Real interest rates, however, are still expected to remain significantly negative, and accommodative financial conditions will continue to firmly support economic activity. That's according to the Japanese central bank. It also said in its outlook that if realized, the bank will accordingly continue to raise policy interest rates and adjust the degree of monetary accommodation. Post this move, we saw a jump in the yen, which strengthened more than 1%. And rose to its strongest level since March. Now, apart from having made this move, the central bank also unveiled a detailed plan to slow down its massive bond buying, taking another step towards gradually phasing out nearly a decade of huge stimulus. Earlier in March, of course, we had seen the BOJ end negative rates and bond yield control in a landmark shift from its radical stimulus program. So going ahead, these are interesting developments and leave a lot to watch out for, especially given the global central bank setup, where we're actually looking at major central banks now gradually easing rates after a cycle of tightening.
Right, do stay with us, Pallavi. In fact, speaking of these rate decisions, the Federal Open Market Committee will be announcing the monetary policy decision later today. What are the expectations looking like?
You know, so to summarize, the Federal Reserve is expected to maintain a status quo on its key rate. But what we're importantly going to be watching out for is its signaling in terms of a prospective rate cut happening as early as September. This is after months of speculation regarding when the Fed will actually start cutting rates. And while that's not likely to happen today, we're going to be watching out for what Jerome Powell says in his statement in terms of the rate cut cycle starting by its next meet. So far, policymakers have appeared a tad reluctant to cut rates and to commit to the timing of of when they plan to start cutting rates. But recent economic data that's come out of the US has shown easing price pressures, with headline inflation gradually moving towards the Fed's target. So that's what we're going to be watching out for today. The Fed will, of course, announce its policy decision today, and next week is the RBI MPC. So that's going to be giving us some cues on possibly where the RBI too could move from here on.
So key to watch out what happens on that. Thank you, Pallavi, for the moment for joining us. Right now, the rupee hit a fresh low today at 83.75 against the US dollar before closing at 83.73. Now, the weakness in the rupee is probably due to continued selling by foreign portfolio investors, along with the central bank's intervention and importer-led buying. Now, currency analysts we spoke to expect a little more weakness in the rupee. Policy analysts in the US are closely monitoring any indications that Chairman Jerome Powell might opt for a rate cut in September. Well, time for a very short break here on Profit 360. But when we come back, we bring you our special coverage on all things Olympics. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now, the market regulator SEBI has flagged close to 9,000 instances of misleading or unlawful posts on social media. In what is being seen as the beginning of a crackdown on finfluencers, SEBI has called on leading platforms, including Facebook, Instagram, Telegram, and YouTube, to take strict legal measures against accounts disseminating false claims about the stock market. In fact, Charu Singh is now joining us. Charu, hi now. Charu, what does this entail for finfluencers, and what kind of reactions are we getting to this now?
Hi, so the Security and Exchange Board of India had long back in the month of June only had come up with a consultation paper with regulations saying that there should be no association of regulated entities with unregistered entities, that is the financial influencers, the finfluencers. And now people are waiting for these regulations to be notified. In fact, when the submission about the 9,000 social media posts being flagged as unlawful was submitted before the Rajya Sabha, and SEBI had said that it is reaching these social media platforms itself against these posts. Even on that day, SEBI chairperson Byju at an NSE event had said that they are planning on notifying these regulations soon. And let's see how that plays out for the regulator.
All right, so we'll wait and watch out for that one. But Charu, also you're tracking another important story now, the litigation over edtech firm Byju. The company is expected to settle with BCCI next week, but now it faces more trouble as NCLAT has asked Byju to give an assurance that 500 crore rupees due to BCCI have not been misappropriated. So Charu, tell us more about that.
So let's try to understand the whole thing a little more clearly. What happened was that Byju was admitted into insolvency in middle of July for default of payment of an amount of rupees 158 crores. Now what has happened is while BCCI and Byju are coming to reconcile with each other and coming on to a settlement basically, the problem lies in the case of US lenders. US lenders are saying that the money that Byju is using to reconcile or settle with BCCI is actually the money that it siphoned off from it in USA, and there has been a US court ruling against the edtech startup as well about the same. Now that is why, to keep things clear and to not create any more mess or not to create any mishaps in future, the appellate tribunal has asked Byju to give an undertaking saying that this money has nothing to do with any allegations of any siphoning of money or laundering of money that took place in USA. Another important thing that needs to be considered here is that this money that will be given to BCCI to settle with it in this insolvency case will be paid by Byju Ravindran, not by the entity Byju. And the case is going to be heard again tomorrow in great detail.
All right, thank you very much for that, Charu. Now, automaker Toyota Kirloskar Motors has inked a memorandum of understanding with the Maharashtra government to set up a new greenfield manufacturing plant in the state. The total investment is estimated to be approximately 20,000 crore rupees. The plant will be set up at Chhatrapati Sambhaji Nagar. The Deputy Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis said that this would create 8,000 jobs.
इस इन्वेस्टमेंट के कारण 8,000 डायरेक्ट और 12,000 इनडायरेक्ट जॉब्स क्रिएट होंगे और एक बहुत बड़ी वेंडर इकोसिस्टम भी यहां पर तैयार होगी। ऑटोमोबाइल के क्षेत्र में महाराष्ट्र को एक कदम आगे ले जाने का काम इस इन्वेस्टमेंट के माध्यम से होगा।
Now, over 150 people have died and about 186 others have been injured after a series of landslides hit Kerala's Wayanad district. Amid heavy rains, hundreds more are feared to be trapped, with government agencies carrying out rescue operations in affected areas. Several families have reported that their loved ones remain untraceable. The army has successfully evacuated more than 1,000 people from affected areas so far. Around 600 personnel from the NDRF, army, state police, forest officials and volunteers have been carrying out rescue operations. And shifting our focus now to the Olympics that are being held at Paris. The badminton lineup for India was in action since this morning. Indian shuttlers PV Sindhu and Lakshya Sen registered dominant wins in their respective round of 32 matches. PV Sindhu registered her second victory in the Paris Olympics against Kirsten Kuba of Estonia, and at the end the final scoreboard was 21-5 and 21-10. The Estonian shuttler was no match for Sindhu as the match lasted for just 32 minutes. Another star shuttler, Lakshya Sen, defeated Belgian Julian Keragi in Group L men's singles badminton match. Another big qualification for India was Swapnil Kosale, who went through to the finals in the category for 50-meter rifle 3-point. He finished 7th with a total score of 519. Moving on to table tennis now, where the sensation Shrija Akula battled it out with Singapore's Jian Zheng in the round of 32 clash in the women's singles event. Going forward, all eyes, of course, will be on ace Indian boxer Lavlina Borgohain. Remember, she won a bronze medal in Tokyo and will start her campaign with a round of 16 bout against a Norwegian boxer. Well, that's all we have time for right now on Profit 360. Thank you very much for joining us.